Welcome to another episode, everyone. The Rolling 60's Crip member, Big Snoop Dogg, who supposedly, allegedly shot Monster Kody 6 times. He was definitely shot 6 times. But Monster Kody eventually says, right here included, that this is an individual that did it. I mean, he wasn't snitching or whatever, he was doing an interview. But let's get into it.
Welcome back to another episode of Warren Cali. In this episode, I'm going to detail the story of Fred Hill from the Rolling 60 Crips. Now, the first Big Snoop Dogg wasn't the rapper from Long Beach. It was a well-known Rolling 60 Crip OG named Fred Hill, aka Big Snoop Dogg. Fred was born around 1958 and would later go by the name Snoop Dogg. Fred would first live on the east side of South Central until around 1967, where he would move on 6th Avenue in the Rolling 60's turf. Now, Fred would gain a deadly reputation in his community. He is an early member, being around during the formation of the Rolling 60's, with him being around 17 in 1975. Some people would even say he'd be the one to come up with the name Rolling 60's. With his commitment to his game, he'd become known as one of the most fierce and deadliest Rolling 60 members of the 70s and the 80s. The 60's formed in the 70s on the west side of South Central and became one of the deadliest gangs in Los Angeles, taking on several rivals like Bloods, the Hoovers, and later several other Crips. By 1979, like we all know, the 60's became locked in a war with another gang, also well known as problematic and a ferocious gang in their area, known as the A-Tray Gangsters. The war got so deadly, bodies began to rack up on both sides. And Fred Hill, aka Snoop Dogg, was a person locked in on that war. He would gain a reputation for shooting at the A-Trays, and even from Monster Kody's book, he was labeled as an elite shooter from the 60's, along with people like Mumbles, Keto Rock, and others. Fred was such a threat, he even would be the one to shoot Monster Kody 6 times, which Monster Kody will go on to admit himself in an interview on Kev Mack's channel. Fred Hill was even had said to call Monster on his hospital bed after he was shot, and allegedly came to the hospital to finish Monster off.
One guy got a beard, a mustache, one guy got a beard, and one guy's clean shaven. But they're not dressed like gang members. I don't see no bulges where they might be armed. So the guy walks up to me and he says, "Aren't you Monster Kody?" So I said, "Yeah, I'm Monster Kody. I'm from A-Tray Gangster. What's up?" And the guy reaches in his coat. He has a pea coat, but he can't get through the gun apparently because it's the button. And when he reaches in his coat, Lil Hunchy runs and leaves me. When I look towards Lil Hunchy to the left and look back, the guy shoots me in the stomach. Shoots me in the stomach, point blank range, no closer than you and I are, and blows me against the wall. And the impact of the bullet, it doesn't really hurt me, but it surprises me, and the force of it blows me against the wall. And just out of survival, out of the instinct, I rush towards him, try to grab the gun, and he shoots me in the left hand, and my hand hits the wall like it's blown off, where I don't look at my hand. So now I know it's time to go. I turn around and try to run, and he shoots me in the back. The bullet that hits me in the back knocks me down on my face, and I'm dazed. So now I'm getting up on my knees, and the guy kicks me in the stomach. Kicks me over, so I have no alternative but to put my leg up, just try to shield a shot. And he shoots me 3 times in the left leg, and then they run off. Well, Lil Hunchy, he ran the entire block, and he comes back, and he asks me, "What happened?" "Well, damn fool, I'm shot." That's what happened.
Fred would later be arrested and do some time for attempted murder.
Damn fool, I'm shot. What happened? This ain't the time to be explaining. I got 6 bullets in me. They were trying to take him out, right? They hit him 6 times, 3 in the leg and all that, but the other shots weren't in the leg. They were trying to take him out. He survived, though. He was indeed a monster. He survived that attack, bro. Close range. The dude shot him in the stomach. I know many people who didn't survive 1 gunshot, unfortunately. You know, that's how it be sometimes. And then there are people who survive 20 gunshots, man.
Upon his release, Fred went back into the streets, but in the 90s, he worked part-time several years as a gang counselor for the county agency, community youth gang services, schools, alternative residential facilities, and also church programs. But Fred was still an active member of the 60's, and he had the respect and the fear in his hood for him being aggressive and stern. Some people will call him a bully, and his involvement in the 60's would never stop, even the older he got, with him in the 2000s being in his 40s. Fred was even named in the 60's 2003 gang injunction as being one of the leaders of the gang. But Fred's position in the Rolling 60's would later be tested. A woman named Nicole would witness a meeting of the Rolling 60's at an apartment complex located at 6329 South 10th Avenue in Los Angeles on August 25th, 2005. Her cousin was a member of the Rolling 60's and had been killed the day before. In the meeting was discussed his death, and it was called by Fred Hill, who at the time had super OG status. The apartment complex was a well-known gathering place for the Rolling 60's, and Fred told the Rolling 60 members to wear white t-shirts to identify themselves as members of the gang. Nicole said Fred and a man named Little CJ began arguing over the fact that Little CJ had worn a black t-shirt. Fred embarrassed Little CJ in front of everyone. Little CJ later left the apartment complex and returned with a revolver. He fired the revolver twice and hit Fred. Fred tried to cover his face with his hand and was shot in the wrist and the head. Nicole saw Little CJ running away after the shooting, and an ambulance arrived, and Fred was taken to the hospital. Officers followed the ambulance, then interviewed Fred. Fred said Little CJ from 60's was the one that shot him. A television crew for the Telemundo network was taping a Rolling 60's gathering. A cameraman filmed a man fleeing the scene, and the tape showed the fleeing man turning his head when someone called out, "CJ." The man ran northbound on 10th Avenue to 63rd Street, then turned eastbound towards 7th Avenue. Detectives viewed the videotape and reported that the fleeing man looked similar to Little CJ. September 15th, 2005. Fred called Detective Martin and told him Little CJ shot him after they got into an argument. Fred said the gang members at the gathering were supposed to wear white t-shirts, but Little CJ wore a black t-shirt. Fred then said that Little CJ came back with a gun after the confrontation, and he was the one who shot him. On September 21st, 2005, Fred called Detective Martin, and Fred was trying to help the detective locate Little CJ. On October 24th, 2005, Fred again called Detective Martin, and Fred said he seen Little CJ in the passenger seat of a tan Camaro in the area of Crenshaw Mall. He would say Little CJ reached under his seat if he was reaching for a gun. Then Fred would then drive off. Fred also told Detective Martin on that occasion that Little CJ lived on 7th Avenue, south of 64th Street, in a gray house. On the same day, Fred went to the police station and viewed a photo lineup. Fred was recorded, and this was later played for a jury at trial. Fred would pick out a man, which was...
So that's why Fred got into trouble. Big Snoop Dogg. Old boy shot him, CJ, and then he started snitching, helping the detectives find the individual. Setting them up, steady calling the detective saying, "Where he at?" Apparently he was worried about this dude still being on the street. After he done popped him in the head and in the hand, he probably felt like his life is in danger. Whatever his reason, apparently he started snitching. Allegedly.
Little CJ and said he was the shooter, then he began to cry. On October 27, 2005, around 8:15 p.m., Fred called police, and Officer Munez was called to the area of South 4th Avenue where he encountered Fred. Fred said he'd been traveling northbound on 6th Street where he saw a tan Camaro traveling westbound. Fred said that the man in the passenger seat of that Camaro was the man who shot him. He would also give a description of the shooter. Fred would later tell Nicole, who witnessed him being shot, that she had to go to the police station with him. On November 2nd, 2005, on that day, Detective Martin showed Nicole the same photo lineup that he shown Fred. She would pick two people out as possible shooters, and Little CJ was one of them. Nicole told detectives that she was sure she could identify the shooter in person. She also said that she was afraid to testify in court. She said at the time of the shooting, she was in the back of the apartment complex and heard gunshots, then she ran to the front of the building where she saw Little CJ running away from the scene. Fred also told Detective Martin that he was afraid to testify. He was worried about the safety of his family and his girlfriend. After expressing his fear to Detective Martin, Fred dropped out of sight and did not contact Detective Martin anymore. Little CJ will be arrested on February 15th, 2006. Police saw Little CJ sitting in a car parked in the driveway and approached him and arrested him. Both Nicole and Fred will refuse to testify at Little CJ's trial. Fred would recant everything and say he never even knew Little CJ and that he never contacted police about anything. Fred would go as far as to saying he never picked Little CJ out of a lineup and didn't even remember talking to them in the hospital or on the phone. Fred even continued by saying he didn't remember being in the area of the apartment complex that he was shot in. But even with Fred recanting everything, Little CJ would still receive 25 years to life. Little CJ is now 54 years old and is in Solano State Prison. He has been in prison since 2007, where his earliest parole date is 2030.
And that happens often in gang culture and in other cultures, or like you get someone arrested and then you recant your story, you change your mind. You get pressure from the gang, from the family, Man, don't go to court, man. Please don't let my brother get locked up for life, man. Don't go to court. Tell me that you was shot, that you was intoxicated from the medication, and that the police came and tried to interview you while you were, not all there from the medication in the hospital or what have you. And so, you said some stuff that you shouldn't have said. They coaxed some stuff out of you or what have you. I'm sure they tried to get him to change his story and get him not to come to trial in the same way that an abuser, a man that's an abuser, that abuses his wife, girlfriend, or what have you, and then the woman doesn't press charges, or she does at that moment, calls the police, she's pissed off, it just happened. But then when the police get there, or months later, when it's time to go to court, go to trial, she's not showing up. This happens all the time. She didn't calm down. She loves him, what have you. She's not showing up. That could be the situation what happened here. He said what he said at first. And then, of course, people got to him. Like I've said before, it's one thing to snitch with the police, what have you. It's another thing to come to court and get on the stand and expose yourself as a snitch. You can always say stuff when there's no, when you didn't get on the stand. Like this, man, I was high on medication. They came in there. I didn't say that. I don't even remember talking to the police. They lying on me. But if you get on the stand, obviously you can't say, they lying on you. That's you on the stand talking. So oftentimes these members, they're snitched to the police or what have you, but they're going to draw the line with coming to get on the stand against you.
1. Fred, by many accounts of people, was labeled as a snitch, even after recanting his statements. But many people still love and respect him as an OG and see him for what he did in the streets, being one of the founders of one of the most known gangs in the world, the Rolling 60 Crips. Fred has been seen on a few channels on YouTube but recently, and he is around 66 years old and still living. This will conclude.
Yeah, whatever. Whatever, Fred. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. Let me know what y'all think in the comments. I mean, shit. I guess he shot Monster Kody 6 times, but then he went bad. And he said he still respected. That's Warren Cali. Shout out to Warren Cali. Say he still respected and all this in the hood. That's how gang banging is now, though. No, he ain't respected. You ain't supposed to be able to bring your ass back over here and give a damn what you did in the street. All that is nullified. All of that shit is negated once you snitch. Your prior history means absolutely nothing. You're done. Yeah. Stay safe and stay free, people.